Whether the team has given us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So the Commanders have a big decision to make in the offseason. I don't think you're going to see any changes to the head coach position. I don't think you're going to see any changes to the offensive coordinator position, although there are some out there that would love to see the Commanders shake some things up with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he'll be here for his third consecutive season calling the plays. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, him building continuity with Jaden, keeping the same play caller. I think there is a benefit to that, although I think there could be an upgrade there if the right guy became available. I don't think such candidate will present itself. The one guy that I have in mind is Mike McDaniel. There have been conflicting reports as to whether McDaniel will be retained in Miami. It felt like he was safe just a week ago. Today, there was a report that said, hold on, not so fast, my friend. He could potentially be out in Miami. But even if that should come to fruition, you've got teams like the Giants and the Jets who are salivating at the prospects of getting their hands on a guy like Mike McDaniel. So I don't think that he'll be available as an offensive coordinator. I think he would be in line for another head coaching gig because of how good he is as an offensive play caller. So I don't even think that's realistic for Washington. Plus, they don't have a vacancy there. Where they do have, technically, a vacancy is at defensive coordinator. Joe Witt Jr. was a massive failure as the defensive coordinator here. Dan Quinn took over the play calling responsibilities in Week 11 versus the Miami Dolphins, has been calling the plays ever since. And he said before he started this job at his introductory press conference that he didn't really want to call plays. He kind of wanted to have more of a hands-off approach, really wanted to oversee the entire operation, didn't really want to be too hands-on with one particular position group, but wanted to really oversee everything. Then the issues cropped up defensively. He jumped into the fray, and I think the defensive play calling juices got flowing, and now I think he's maybe changed his tune a bit. And I don't blame him necessarily, because if I'm going to be fired, if there's going to be an issue, and I've already told you this numerous times, if you're supposed to be good at something, and that's how you get hired as a head coach in this league, you've got to have some sort of redeeming quality and trait. Normally, you're a coordinator, you crush it as a coordinator, whether that's offensive or defensive coordinator, but whatever side of the ball that got you your fame and got you the opportunity to be a head coach, your team can't be bad on that side of the football. Like, that's a bad look for you as a head coach. It's one thing if you're a defensive head coach, your defense is awesome, but you can't find the right offensive coordinator and your offense sucks. Oh, man, it sucks. We've seen so many guys go by the wayside that way, but at least your defensive integrity is intact. No one's questioning whether or not you can call defense, right? With Dan Quinn, he's a defensive-minded guy, yet his defense has been ass each of the, first 2 years here in Washington. And if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm saying, you know what? If this ship is going to sink, it's going to sink with me as the captain, right? Defensively. I'm not going to allow someone else to sink this ship. But in the offseason, you can recalibrate. You can, cooler heads prevail when, there's no game that you're preparing for the following week. You can take a step back and really assess how you want this to go down. And there will be options, I believe, available that can take over and give Dan Quinn the opportunity to go back to the role that he was really filling here in Washington prior to Week 11 this year, which is the ultimate manager, right? The head coach, the overseer, the supervisor, if you will, right? Now, I think there are 3 realistic options for the Commanders this offseason at defensive coordinator. All right. Here are the 3 options that I think are very realistic. All right. You may not love them. I'm not saying that they're the best options. I think they're the top 3 realistic options. Option one, Dan Quinn remains the defensive coordinator here in Washington. He remains the defensive play caller, okay? Whether Joe Witt Jr. keeps the title of defensive coordinator or not is of no consequence. He's not calling the defensive plays. And whether they promote someone from within to the title or Dan Quinn leaves it as is and just continues to be the play caller, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, some people, it matters if Joe Witt's still here, if he's still the technical defensive coordinator. If he's not calling the plays, who gives a shit? Dan Quinn may ultimately decide, I got it. If this season in 2026, if next season doesn't go well, at least I can sleep at night knowing it didn't go well because I didn't do a good enough job as a play caller. It's much easier to be able to say, this thing failed because of me. It's hard. It's a bitter pill to swallow when something doesn't work and it didn't work because of somebody else. Okay. So I could see Dan Quinn saying, no, you know what? I got it. I'll take it from here. Okay. So that's option one. Don't discount that. A lot of you don't want it. Some of you do want it. I'm not, I did this exercise yesterday where I was like, run it back with free agents on the fence or pack your things and go, right? You can go. I'm on the fence with Dan Quinn as the defensive play caller. On one hand, I think he has shown the ability to be a rock star defensive coordinator in this league. I think he's shown the ability to do that on multiple occasions, which is why he's gotten a head coaching job now twice in the NFL. On the other hand, he can't stop a Shanahan coached offense. That is a proven fact. He has not beaten a Shanahan disciple in his career. And most of these games are ass whoopings that take place with Quinn being on the wrong side of the belt. So I have my apprehension with Dan Quinn, the defensive play caller. That said, you can sway me either way. I personally would prefer some fresh blood in here, a new voice and a new perspective for these players to follow defensively. And that takes us to some outside candidates. And number two, if you want to go the veteran route, because I think you've got three options. DQ remains, veteran option, fresh, young option. So number two is the veteran option, right? Sticking on the theme of a guy that has been there, done that. DQ seems to love former head coaches, guys that can see his blind spots, as he likes to say. He's got plenty of former NFL head coaches on his staff currently, and I wouldn't be shocked if he added another one in Jim Schwartz, the current defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. Now, there have been rumors circulating that the Browns are going to part ways with two-time NFL head coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski. And if that is in fact the case, obviously his entire staff is going to disperse. Should Jim Schwartz become available, that is a guy that I am highly intrigued by. Wherever he's gone, good defense has followed. He's one of those guys that just gets it defensively. He's a lifer, NFL lifer. I liken him to a Wade Phillips, to a Vic Fangio, to a Steve Spagnuolo, to a Dick LeBeau. Just one of those guys that it doesn't matter how old he is, how long he's been doing it. You give him a job as a defensive coordinator, you're going to get results, right? Wherever he's been, usually good defensive results follow him, and I would love those results to follow him here to Washington. So if you're going the veteran route, which it feels like DQ would be more likely to do that than anything else if he's not going to entrust himself to remain the defensive play caller, I would love to see him go after Jim Schwartz if he's going to go the veteran route. And then the third option, I believe, that exists is a young, vibrant defensive coordinator who's never done the job before, never called plays, so you don't know how it's going to work. With the veteran, there's a track record. There is tangible proof that he can get it done in this league. With this option, you're rolling the dice, similar to what you just did with Joe Witt Jr. You rolled the dice, and it was snake eyes. Ouch. You crapped out. This is another one of those situations where it could go really well for you, or it could go all bad. Only one way to find out. You know who I'm talking about. Chicago Bears defensive backs coach, Al Harris. He's helped transform that Bears defense, not into this great defensive unit that is taking the league by storm. He's transformed them into a turnover, havoc-wreaking machine. 33 takeaways on the season. We watched him take guys that we thought were on the back end of their career who were done taking the football away, like Kevin Byard, and turned him into the all-pro Kevin Byard we saw in Tennessee. We thought that guy was washed and never resurface again. Kevin Byard is a menace that's taking the football away at a high level. Okay. The corner that was in Dallas that the Cowboys drafted that kind of just started to bounce around. No one thought he was going to really evolve into anything. What is his name? I'm going to figure out what his name is. Nahshon Wright. Nahshon Wright felt like a journeyman NFL corner that would be lucky if he stuck around on an NFL roster as a special team standout. That's what his career felt like it was going to be. Al Harris has continued to work with him, whether it was in Dallas initially, now in Chicago, and now Nahshon Wright is a guy that may be playing himself into a nice payday this offseason. Nahshon Wright has taken the football away. He's turned into a really good corner for them. And when you look around at that Bears defense, they attack the football with vigor. They're playing on a string. They understand route combinations and concepts. So they understand what they're looking at, what they can drive on, what they need to stay back on. And what you have seen is a defense that looks prepared in the secondary in particular, and that is a hunting defense. They're ball hawks, something that the Commanders are not. Now, there's a history with Al Harris and Dan Quinn, obviously, and Joe Witt Jr., etc. All those guys were in Dallas together. Al Harris and Joe Witt Jr. probably go all the way back to their days in Green Bay. If I had to guess, they probably overlapped there as well as coach and player. So there are ties to Washington with Al Harris. We all assumed that Al Harris would have been one of the guys that DQ was going to pull along with him from Dallas to Washington. He tried. He was denied because he wasn't willing to give him a job title that was going to be a promotion. It was going to be a lateral move, and Dallas rejected it. But after McCarthy was fired, his group and his staff was, disassembled. He ended up in Chicago, landing on his feet with the Bears. We've seen the results. Maybe DQ can go and get his guy for a second try. And this time, get him here to Washington, give him an opportunity to be the defensive coordinator, and we see what happens with that youth. We've talked about young coaches, guys that have played in the league, that have that spark, that have that energy. We've seen other coaches that we've gotten excited about because of the energy that they bring on the sidelines. That's what Al Harris is. That's what he could potentially be as a defensive coordinator. I'd love to see him get an opportunity. Could it be here in Washington? To me, those are your top three realistic options this offseason. DQ remains the defensive coordinator. You go the veteran route and bring in Jim Schwartz should that staff be broken up in Cleveland due to the firing of head coach Kevin Stefanski. Or option 3, you go with youth. You go with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective and a guy who's never done it in Al Harris, who has been a part of some defenses or a part of some staffs that have produced defenses that have taken the ball away at some of the highest clips we've seen in the NFL over the last 5 to 7 years. Also, massive history with Dan Quinn. At one point, he said he would follow Dan Quinn to the ends of the earth. So you know he loves DQ, as most people do. Al Harris would be a wonderful option. An honorable mention for some of you is Raheem Morris. Not my cup of tea. Not really interested in him. I don't think he's going to be fired, but we've seen some strange things happen in the NFL over the last 5 to 7 years from a coaching standpoint. Guys that we thought were safe get to the offseason. They're told they got to get rid of this guy or that guy, and they decide, no, I'm not firing my guy, and then something happens, and then next thing you know, that guy's been relieved of his duties, or there's a mutual parting of ways, whatever the case may be. So you think Raheem Morris is safe, and then we can get to the offseason, and Arthur Blank can decide, I want to go in a different direction. So you never know. Feels like Raheem Morris is going to be back in Atlanta and get another opportunity in 2026, which I'm rooting for because I don't want him here in Washington as the defensive coordinator. But that is a name to keep an eye on should he be relieved of his duties in Atlanta. So what says you? Who are you interested in? And there could be another guy that I didn't mention that you're interested in. Leave it down in the comment section. Who are some of the names that you're interested in? But more importantly, I gave you 3 options that could realistically take place this offseason. A veteran, a brand new, fresh defensive coordinator who's never done it, and DQ remaining the defensive coordinator next year. Which one of those 3 options suits you best as a fan? Which one of those would make you the most excited? All right. So let's get to in other news. Before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsor, Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, so this week's episodes are going to be a little bit different because we're at the point of the season now where I think apathy has set in with most of the fan base. You could care less about the injury report for a Week 18 meaningless game. The Eagles are going to rest a bunch of their starters, which is not good for us because it heightens the likelihood that the Commanders actually somehow come out with the victory. Still don't think we beat whoever is going to be on the field for the Eagles. You know, whether it's Shipley, it's Tank Bigsby at the running back position, whether it's forgot the name of the backup quarterback that's played really well, Tanner McKee, or it's Sam Howell. It really doesn't matter. It feels like any of those guys could beat us. So the injury report isn't really of note. I will say there is one name on it that, did pique my interest. It's Bill. But he's dealing with an illness. If this were later in the week, like Friday, I'd be very nervous. We've seen guys miss games this season due to an illness late in the week, i.e. Chris Rodriguez just a week or 2 ago. So I don't necessarily dismiss illnesses. You don't know the severity of it, but usually illnesses that occur earlier in the week are overcome by the latter portion of the week, and guys are able to play in the game. So I'm going to trust that Bill is going to be fine by the time Friday or so rolls around, and he'll be able to travel with the team, play in a game. Look, we don't have much to cheer for. We don't have much to look forward to. Bill is one of the few guys that we have to look forward to heading into this final game of the season. Please don't take him from us. Okay. You've taken everything from us this season. We have no joy this year. We've had no joy for much of this season. Don't take the little joy that we do have left from us in week 18. I beg of you, please spare us. All right. But outside of that, there's really nothing to see on the injury report. Really, at this point with DQ's press conferences, I've grown somewhat fatigued of them, not because I'm at that point like I had reached with Ronald Rivera, where I could care less of what he was saying. The sound of his voice annoyed me. His repetitive speech became an issue for me and my ears. That's not where I am. I'm not annoyed by Dan Quinn. I am annoyed by the repetitive nature of the conversations that are being had. The same questions are being asked, the same answers are being regurgitated. You're at that point of the season where there's just not a lot that these, media members can ask that are going to make us, sit at the edge of our seat and in anticipation of what the answer is. They're asking a lot of the same questions. It's redundant at this point. So I'll just give you the skeleton of what I thought was somewhat important from his press conference today. He did give us updates on some injured players and their status for this week's game, which I thought was important, not because of whether or not they're going to play in a game. That's irrelevant to me. I just want to make sure you're not putting anybody out there at risk, and you're not, putting guys on the field that we know are part of the solution moving forward. You're not putting them on the field in a meaningless week 18 game. If they're not, no one's 100%. So I don't want to throw out, if they're not 100%, don't put them out there. If that's the case, nobody would be playing in this game. But if a guy's coming off of an injury or he's still dealing with an injury, this isn't week 8. It's week 18. And you're not 4-2 on the season. You're 4-12 on the season. So there's no reason for a guy like Marcus Mariota, who I think should be back here next year, playing in week 18 on a quad injury. We don't want him to tear his quad muscle, right? Like Dietrich Wise did. We don't need him doing that, right? We don't need Tyler Biadasz dealing with a knee and ankle sprain, doing something even worse to his knee or ankle, and have that offset our offensive line and its continuity next season. We don't need Laramie Tunzel, who is looking for a new deal, who was outstanding this past season, dealing with an oblique. We don't need him doing something even worse to his oblique muscle. These guys need to be out of this game, and DQ basically told us as much today. Biadasz placed on IR, so he's done for the season. At least we know he's going to be okay, right? Mariota, he said it's very unlikely that he plays. He did not practice today. I don't know why he just doesn't rule him out. Like, there's no competitive advantage. You're not playing any mind games with the Eagles. They don't give a shit if Marcus Mariota plays or not. So you can just go ahead and say, no, Marcus is going to be out, and we'll figure out what the pecking order will be at the quarterback position. You don't have to announce that Josh Johnson is going to be your starter if you don't want to. But again, who cares? Josh Johnson, Jeff Driscoll, Sam Hartman, who gives a shit? Who cares? Right? Just tell us that Marcus is out, and let's move on with our lives, right? But he's trying to milk it for what? I don't know. Laramie Tunzel, he basically said he isn't practicing, and we've gotten to the point now where it doesn't feel like he's going to play in this game either. Good. He shouldn't be playing in this game. And those were the injury updates. Sound like those guys are going to be out for week 18, ending their seasons effectively. And as I've said, that's the way I would like it to be anyway. Brandon Coleman, there was a question about evaluating his performance this season. He was a guy that was pegged as the left guard to start this season off. He started the first 3 games of the season. DQ talked about, some of the fundamentals that he lacked because of the time he missed in camp. And this is the second year in a row Brandon Coleman has sustained some sort of injury during training camp, missed a huge bulk of camp, and it's affected the way that he started the season. Last year as a rookie, he missed pretty much all of the summer, came back right before the start of the season, and it affected how they utilized him early in the season. He was platooning in and out last year with Cornelius Lucas, who started most of the games to start the season off, and those two were kind of going back and forth with snaps until Coleman overtook him finally and became the starter. So this year, he started the first 3 games, but ultimately they weren't happy with his technique. They weren't happy with some of the things he was doing, and thus they benched him in favor of Chris Paul, who came in, did an excellent job. He never got his spot back. So they feel like he's handled everything, really well. They think that he's, developed better practice habits. He, when put in the game and given an opportunity, they've liked some of the things they've seen from him. I wanted a follow-up question because it sounded like DQ hinted at him snapping the ball as if he got some reps at center. I wasn't sure if he was saying he snapped out of his stance and got to the second level, or if he was saying he snapped the ball and got to the second level. We know he's an athlete. I really wish somebody would have followed up there, because that's a pretty significant storyline if he's taking snaps as a center. That could be pretty intriguing moving forward, because Tyler Biadasz is going into the final year of his deal next year. So if you tell me that Brandon Coleman could be your future center, the center of the future, rather, which I doubt, by the way. But if you're telling me that that's a possibility, you got my attention, right? Like, that's something that I'm intrigued by. If you tell me, no, he can play center too. Okay. We still don't know if he can play guard, though, effectively. So they're still trying to figure out some things with Brandon Coleman, but they've liked the progress they've seen from him. And he's going to play. He's going to start. But again, he's starting at left tackle. So it's like, yeah, that's cool, but we already have a left tackle. We already have a right tackle. He's going to be your swing tackle. Cool, but he's a third-round pick. You would prefer him to be starting somewhere, and you keep telling us he's capable of starting somewhere on the offensive line. So, again, where would that be? DQ was asked about Daron Payne's season that he turned in this year, and he basically said, look, I'm not going to talk about, the overall season for him, and like the season's done, because it's not done yet. But he talked about how Daron prepared, came into the season, how he did some really good things, how he plays. This the same shit we've heard him say about Daron over and over again. I just don't think we got what we thought we were getting out of Daron in this pseudo contract season. Like, we got payday Payne early in the season when guys were healthy. But as I said yesterday on Commanders Kings, when you're a guy that is getting paid what Daron Payne has been paid, right? When you're making the money, at one point, he was the highest paid player on this roster. When that is the case, there's a certain level that you should be performing at, and it shouldn't be dependent upon others around you. If anything, your presence should affect the game in a way that allows it to be easier for others around you and not the other way around. Guys that benefit from others are usually role players, right? Guys that can create for themselves and others are stars. We thought Daron Payne had a chance to be a star, but it turns out he's nothing more than a mere role player, which is fine, but you can't pay him star money. That's where the issue lies, if you ask me. So I don't think they're necessarily disturbed by what they've gotten from Daron Payne, but they're not jumping for joy. They're not euphoric about what they've gotten from Daron Payne this year. And I've already told you, I don't think he's going to be back next season. Then a question I thought was a really interesting one that was asked: the loss of Dorrance Armstrong, and they wanted an update. So Ben Standig asked him basically, like he said, the downturn of your season kind of coincided with the loss of Dorrance Armstrong, which is 100% spot on. Dorrance Armstrong got hurt in the Chicago game. He wasn't able to really perform in the second half of that game. We weren't able to get the key stops in the second half of that game. Although if the offense doesn't fumble there at the end, we probably win the game, but that's nor here nor there. The following week, he shouldn't have played. He does play. He tears his ACL, and we proceed to get blown out by Dallas and pretty much blown out every other week in the month of November. And the season was never the same. And it kind of coincided with Dorrance Armstrong's loss. Now, again, we can't say that DA is the reason that all of this transpired, but it felt like a big shift, a seismic shift took place when he got hurt. And DQ said, basically that, look, DA wore a lot of hats for us. Very versatile defender, a guy that, we trusted to do so many different things on the defensive side of the football. And once he wasn't there, you felt his loss, like his presence not being out there. He roped in Dietrich Wise into the conversation, like how vastly different they are as defenders, but the impact that they both had, not just on the field, but off it, and how those guys not being in the lineup really impacted this team. He said that DA is doing fine. He's progressing well. Again, his injury happened early enough in the season that there's a chance that he could be ready for camp. We'll see, but anytime a guy's coming off of a major injury like the one DA sustained, I'm not looking for him to jump back in and be the same player that he was prior to the injury. That takes time. So, again, the frustrating part for this situation is this is the final year of DA's contract. If he doesn't play well, he's not getting any younger. Do you bring him back? Sucks for him. We'll see what happens. But DA's loss this year definitely hurt this team in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. And then DQ answered a question about how playing special teams translates to playing on the field as a defensive contributor. I don't necessarily know if that's true or not. I think that was DQ trying to hype up his favorite player on the team, Jeremy Reeves. But he talked about guys like Ale Cajo and Kane Medrano as, young players getting their opportunity on special teams, and how he thinks that can translate to them being really good defenders. I'm like, okay, if that's the case, then what happened with Tyler Owens? It doesn't always work out that way. Nick Bellore is one of the best special teams players in the league. He's not a great defensive player, never has been. So, again, while it doesn't hurt to play special teams at a high level, and no one's disputing that that's a great thing to have happen for you, I don't necessarily believe that being a great special teams player means you're going to be a solid contributor on defense. It doesn't hurt, I'll say that. But he made the case that guys like Medrano and Ale Cajo getting an opportunity on special teams is going to help them when it comes time to start playing actual defensive snaps. Okay, if you say so, we'll see. All right. So that was basically DQ's press conference from today. Let's get to your comments, and then we will get out of here. All right. So we got one super chat, and it's from my guy, JP. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, I don't know about you, Lou, but we need to spend. I do think spending is important this offseason. The whole bargain basement shopping, looking for, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I've told you this before. If you've watched enough of my programming, then you know I love a good deal. Okay. I don't shy away from it. Hell, today, me and my wife were out shopping for some items, and we came away with some outstanding, like, this is the best time of the year to shop if you're going to shop, right? from Black Friday until the end of the year, there's sales everywhere, right? Whether it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, then you get all the Christmas deals, then you get end of the year sales, and knowing that there's going to be all these taxes and things that are start to take effect in 2026, your best bet is to get it on this side of the calendar, right? I love a good deal. Seems like Adam Peters loves a good deal too. All right. But there's a difference. I love a good deal within reason. Okay. I'm not willing to sacrifice quality for the sake of a good deal. You got to know where to draw the line. There's certain items that I'm willing to go, you know what? Yeah. I can spend a little less, get a good deal here, but the quality isn't going to be such a drop off that I notice it. It's noticeable and it affects the performance of whatever that item is. I'll give you a great example. I don't cut corners with paper towels. Okay. There's a level of paper towel that you can go to and still get quality performance out of it. You go too low, however, and you might as well be using a wet napkin, the cheapest wet napkin you can find to wipe something up, because it ain't going to get the job done. It's just going to rip in half. You might as well be wiping it with your damn hand, right? Same thing with toilet paper. There's a such thing as too thick of a toilet paper, too thin. Like Scott's, the worst toilet paper known to mankind. Scott's, you might as well wipe your ass with your hand if you've got Scott's toilet paper. It's trash, right? However, I love a good deal. But I'm not, I don't care. They could try to give me Scott's toilet paper for free. I don't want it. All right. That's not a good deal for me. It's not a good buy. So I'm not interested in deals if they're not going to benefit this team. And Adam Peters can't be cheap in free agency. I'm willing to spend. If the item that I'm spending on is worth it, I will go out and buy foam posits. Love them to death. Now, I don't necessarily love spending $250 on shoes. That's not something that I do very often. As a matter of fact, I haven't done that in over a decade. I don't pay full price for tennis shoes. But if I'm going to spend a boatload of money on shoes, because anything over $125, which is still a lot for me, for a pair of shoes, is crazy for me. Foams are going to cost you well over $125. I will spend it because I know I'm going to get my money's worth out of these shoes. I'm willing to spend and pay the price for this particular product because I know I'm going to get good value, a return on my investment. Adam Peters can't be afraid to spend this offseason. Now, I don't want him out here spending for the sake of spending. I've heard so many people say he's got to spend. And I'm like, you're not wrong, but he's got to spend correctly on the right items. The Patriots went ham. Everybody wants to use the Patriots as an example. The Patriots had the most cap space and the Patriots spent the most cap last year. Yes, they did. But they spent it on impactful players that have come in and delivered for them. Williams from the Eagles has played well for them. Harold Landry leads their team in sacks this season. Stephon Diggs, I know he's got a pending charge here, but he's been really good for them this season. It's been money well spent for them. The corner that they went out and got in free agency, Carlton Davis, has been fantastic. They spent the money wisely and they've gotten great results. That's what I would love to see Adam Peters do this offseason. You're going to spend the money, spend it wisely. Don't just go out here and spend the money frivolously. Spend it. And if you spend a lot of it, so what? As long as you spend it on some good shit. Now, are there good items to be had? I think there are some intriguing items, but this isn't last year or even the year before's free agency class, where you could go out and spend and get a lot of really good football players. But as we know, every year there's some guys that shake free, that become free agents, that you didn't see coming as a free agent, that wasn't on your radar before the offseason hit. Some guys are going to be cap casualties. Some guys are going to play their way into a massive deal. And so we'll see who those guys are. But make no mistake about it, we got money. We can't be afraid to spend it this offseason. I don't think he will. I'm not telling you he's about to go out here and splurge and spend on all the big names like Dan Snyder used to do back in the day. That I'm not telling you that's what's about to happen. But I don't think he's going to be out here going all the way to the back of the store, sifting through the clearance rack, looking for that orange tag and the right size to match. I don't think he's going to be doing that this offseason. I think he's going to go into the store and he's going to actually shop like a regular consumer. I think you're going to see him go after some quality players, some young players with their best football ahead of them. And I think you're going to feel good about some of the purchases. Maybe not all of them, but some of the purchases this offseason. He says, we should be using it. Hendrickson, I don't think that's a good use of our money. You've been a big Trey Hendrickson guy, JP. I'm not. I don't think that's a good use of our money. He's an older age. That's essentially doing what we did last year. This man played in how many games this season? Maybe 4 or 5. He's about to be 32 years old, I believe. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Breece Hall, I agree. Algier, another guy that I'm interested in. Isaiah Likely, love it. Would love to do that. You know, if you can't get Pitts, Isaiah Likely is a great fallback plan. Not going to cost you as much either, right? Breece Hall, can't get him, can't get K9. Tyler Algier is or even Rashad White, one of those two. Nice fallback plan if you need to go elsewhere, right? No more bargain items, no more 1 to 2 year deals. There's still going to be some of those in the mix. But I think you're going to see a few more, 2-3 year deals, because we didn't sign a bunch of those. We didn't sign a whole bunch of those 3-year deals this past offseason. We did the year before. I think you're going to see more of what they did in year 1 than what they did in year 2. Year 1, they went out and they spent money and they went out and got guys. They went out and got Dorrance Armstrong. They went out and got Tyler Biadasz. They went out and got Frankie Louvu. They went out and got players that fit that timeline, and they gave out multi-year deals that first year. I think you're going to see more of that this year in the offseason, or this offseason, I should say. Corin Smith, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Corin Smith, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Corin, writes, Happy New Year, Lou. Happy New Year, Corin. No 6th or 7th round pick for Payne. Who didn't think we could get a 6th or 7th round pick for John Allen last year? If teams know you're going to cut a player, they're not giving you anything for said player. We're just going to wait until he gets released, and then we'll try our hand at seeing if he'll come sign with us. Like, teams value their 6th and 7th round picks now. You are more likely to fetch something for Daron Payne in season at the trade deadline, which is when I was saying we should have been shopping him, when a team is desperate looking to try to upgrade their roster in season because they think they've got a shot to win this season. In the offseason, you got the draft. You got other players available in free agency. There's other routes you can take where you don't have to give up any of your draft capital to acquire a player, unless you're spending it on cheap labor in the draft on a player that's going to be under contract for the next 4 seasons, bare minimum, if you like him. So, no, I don't think you're going to get a 6th or a 7th round pick for Daron Payne. Because again, that would also entail that someone's going to pick up his contract. And while his contract isn't this ridiculously, priced contract where no one's looking to eat that kind of money, it's still money that you don't want to pay Deron Payne if you don't have to. You can, just like Jonathan Allen got a nice deal from the Vikings. I bet you that deal isn't heavy on base salary. A lot of bonuses, guarantees, things of that nature, some incentives in there. But it wasn't hurting them from a cap standpoint. So I don't think you're getting anything for Deron Payne. I think it's a lot like the John Allen situation from last year, where you go into the offseason, you make it known, hey, we're shopping Deron Payne. Teams are like, oh, okay, oh, yeah, that's what's up. But they know they're waiting for you to cut him because you're not keeping him. So, no, I don't think you can get anything for him. I think the time to do that was during the trade deadline, and we missed that window. Anyway, that's the last comment. So I'm going to let you guys get out of here. I do want to say this. Happy New Year to everyone. My goal is to come back and have my New Year's Eve shop with you guys to kind of give you my appreciation like I do every year. So I'll probably do that somewhere around that 10 o'clock, 10:30 time frame. Well, I'll just jump on real quick for 5-10 minutes. Show my gratitude to you guys, take a shot with y'all, and then we'll get out of here and allow you to bring in the new year with those that you love, that you want to be around. But happy New Year's Eve to all of you. And 2025 has been my best year yet, and it's because of you. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I just want to, just in case I'm not able to catch you, you're out partying, living life, enjoying all that life has, in store for you on this beautiful New Year's Eve. I wanted to tell you right now, thank you. Thank you. Loser, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Eagles have been super disrespectful as of late towards us. Would not mind to see a couple fights on Sunday. Well, you're not going to see any fights. You're not going to see, I think part of the Eagles not playing their guys in this game, and I don't want to, I don't think they think we're going to try to purposefully hurt them. But there is a benefit to the Eagles winning on Sunday. And the fact that they're resting their players, look, on one hand, it shows that they have supreme confidence. Whether we're the 2 seed, the 3 seed, it doesn't matter. We think we can repeat, whether we got to go on the road or we have a better shot at staying at home. The thing about it is the Eagles haven't won a road playoff game under Nick Sirianni with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. So it would be in their best interest to try to get the 2 seed. You playing your backups could easily lose you the game on Sunday. It won't. And you could view that as disrespect if you like. We stink. They know it. We know it. But they weren't playing at a high level to be, I personally, to be resting their starters. But also, what's the one thing that could derail any hopes of a Super Bowl repeat for the Eagles? Somebody getting hurt in week 18 in a meaningless game. I shouldn't say meaningless, because it's not meaningless to the Eagles. They win, the Bears lose, they're the 2 seed. That's a big deal. But if somebody gets hurt in week 18, that could be, a death blow to an offense that's already struggling as is, completely fine as constructed. So DQ said, we'll see him in 2 weeks. Yeah, guy. Okay. The fight thing was cool the first time. Now it would feel like we're pressing, we're pushing for it. It needs to happen organically. The first one was organic. I'm not looking to start any fights. I'll finish them, though. We ain't no punk with ours. Bitch, my mama ain't no hoe. Bitch, my daddy ain't no hoe. Bitch, my sister ain't no hoe. Why you try to play me like hoe? Like, we ain't no hoes over here. So you ain't going to come in. You ain't going to just be bitching us around and treating us like we ain't shit. But at the same time, we ain't shit. So I got no animosity towards the Eagles in Week 18. I want all the smoke with them next year when we're actually back at our peak powers. And this ain't it, man. There's no benefit. There's no gain to beating the Eagles in Week 18. So, if you want to see them win in a couple of scraps, have at it. I'm good on that, loser. I'm good. Swaggy P, been a member for 38 months. Salute to you. Who writes, Happy New Year, Lou, and to all of Commanders fam. Absolutely. Likewise. I second that notion. Happy New Year's to all of you, to the mob, to everyone that's been holding us down, holding this community down. None of this exists without you guys. Shout out to all of y'all. Kyle, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Kyle some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad. Glad to have you on board, Kyle. All right. So you guys enjoy some of this college football. You get a good one tonight. Miami and Ohio State. Feels like Ohio State should dominate that game, but you just never know. I thought they were going to beat Indiana in the Big Ten championship, and we saw how that went, but this ain't that. I expect them to harass Carson Beck and make life hell for him, and I expect them to cruise to a victory tonight, but we will see. In any event, you guys have a good one. If you haven't already done so, Sleeper is giving out, they're giving out gems. They throwing the oop. All right. If you haven't already done so, download the Sleeper app. If you already got the Sleeper app, go use it. 100% boost on college football picks. 100% boost on NBA picks. Go get the money. Go get the money. Go get the money. Go get the money. Anyway, I digress. You guys have a good one. Hopefully, I will see you a little bit later on this evening. If not, all love. Happy New Year's. Peace.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, would you entertain trading for Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker and then drafting Bain and Reese, or Bain/Reese, and maybe bringing back Von Miller to mentor the rookie? No, I wouldn't entertain. Again, we don't have any draft capital to be given up to anybody. We have to invest in young players. Those guys you just brought up are looking to get paid. So you're not only investing in them, you have to pay them. How about we find our own Kayvon Thibodeau? First of all, I don't think Kayvon Thibodeau is a real hooper anyway. Trayvon Walker, a little bit different, but even he isn't necessarily as dynamic as I would like, but he's proven that he can be a problem. Both of them from a production standpoint have done that, but we've watched Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think any of us are like, oh, we got to have him. Like, this is a guy that you definitely trade for. I'm not interested in trading away any. We don't actually have any real draft capital to be given away in the first place. That's how we got ourselves in this predicament, giving away picks to try to get players. Different set of circumstances then. We were chasing after something. We ain't chasing after a damn thing other than being relevant. We chasing after relevancy, and you can't be giving away picks when you're chasing after relevancy. We need our draft picks. Again, talked about this. A wise man told me that success is a distraction from the process. We were distracted. We are distracted no longer. We had no success in 2025. So we are back on course. We have found our north. We are recalibrated. Now we got to go to work this offseason. And it doesn't involve trading for anyone. Now, drafting Reese or Bain, all of that is on the table. All of that is on the table. As a matter of fact, those two will be playing in the game tonight. Do some scouting, guys and gals. Go watch these two players and see which one of them you would prefer to have. Anyway. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Reedy Davis writes, LT Mob, see you in 2026. Indeed. That's the perfect way to end tonight's show. For those of you who will be out and about or just living life later on, see you in 2026. 2025 has been a hell of a ride. Not quite like 2024 was for us as Commanders fans, but lessons have been learned. We'll bounce back like round ball next year, but still a lot of good things happened this year. And again, it was because of all of you. So from me and mine to you and yours, Happy New Year. Peace.